The slap echoed through the training hall like a thunderclap, silencing every conversation in the massive chamber. General Kethvar's massive blue hand had struck with the force of a sledgehammer, expecting the small human to crumple. Instead, Cadet Sarah Chen stood perfectly still, her dark eyes blazing with controlled fury. The alien general's triumphant sneer froze on his face as he realized his mistake. The Galactic Military Academy had never seen anything quite like the human exchange program. For 3 centuries, the Alliance had been composed of civilized species, the diplomatic Altarians, the intellectual vegan philosophers, the peaceful Centaurian traders. When humanity finally achieved faster-than-light travel, the galaxy collectively sighed at having to deal with another backwater species. Primitives always think they're special, the Academy instructors would whisper among themselves, watching the lone human cadet struggle with advanced quantum mechanics and stellar navigation. Sarah Chen had arrived 6 months ago, the first human to qualify for the prestigious officer training program. At barely 5 feet tall and weighing less than most alien adolescents, she seemed laughably fragile among her towering classmates. The Krillian cadets, standing nearly 8 feet tall with their rock-hard exoskeletons, would chuckle whenever she passed. "Look at the little pink thing," they'd say. "One strong wind and she'll blow away like space dust." But Sarah had something her alien classmates didn't understand: she was the product of a world where survival meant constant adaptation. While other species had evolved on peaceful worlds with abundant resources, humans had clawed their way to the top of a death world's food chain. Every day on Earth was a battle against gravity, weather, predators, and each other. "We don't just survive," Sarah had told her skeptical roommate, a tall, graceful Altarian named Zeph. "We thrive in conditions that would kill most species." The Academy's combat training was meant to be ceremonial, a gentleman's exercise in tactical theory. Most species had outlawed physical violence millennia ago, settling disputes through meditation and philosophical debate. When General Kethvar announced hand-to-hand combat assessments, the other cadets treated it like an academic exercise. "Combat is about understanding your opponent's psychology," the general had lectured, his 4 arms gesturing dramatically. "Fear is the ultimate weapon." Sarah had watched quietly as her classmates performed their elegant, dance-like movements, beautiful to observe but utterly useless in actual combat. When her turn came, she moved with fluid precision, each strike calculated and devastating. The general's expression had grown increasingly annoyed as she dismantled opponent after opponent with clinical efficiency. "Enough of this primitive brutality," he had snarled, stepping into the ring himself. The confrontation that followed would be talked about for decades. General Kethvar, veteran of a dozen diplomatic missions and pride of the Krillian military, had intended to teach the uppity human a lesson about respect. His species were known for their discipline and martial prowess, their blue-scaled hide tough as armor plating. "You think you're special because you come from some savage world," he had growled, towering over Sarah. "Let me show you what real strength looks like." The slap was meant to be a humiliation, a casual demonstration of his superiority that would put the human in her place. Instead, it unleashed something the general had never encountered before: human reflexes honed by millions of years of mortal combat. Sarah's response was so fast it seemed to happen in slow motion. Her left hand caught his wrist mid-swing, her right hand twisted in a perfect spiral, and the sound of breaking bone echoed through the stunned silence. "For seconds," she said calmly, releasing the general's mangled wrist. "That's how long it took for you to learn that strength isn't about size, it's about knowing when to use it." The general staggered backward, clutching his injury, his face a mask of shock and pain. "You wanted to see what real strength looks like. This is what happens when you evolve on a world where everything is trying to kill you." The Academy Hall remained frozen in absolute silence as Sarah straightened her uniform and walked toward the exit. At the doorway, she paused and turned back to address the room full of stunned aliens. "My grandmother always told me, never start a fight, but always finish one," she said, her voice carrying clearly through the vast chamber. "Today, you learned why humans don't just survive, we dominate." The aftermath of the incident spread through the academy like wildfire. Within hours, every cadet knew the story of the tiny human who had broken a general's wrist in 4 seconds. The Krillian High Command initially demanded Sarah's immediate expulsion, but the Academy's review board had other ideas. Combat footage showed that the general had struck first, making Sarah's response technically self-defense. Perhaps, the review board concluded, it's time we reconsidered our assumptions about these remarkable humans. Sarah completed her training with honors, graduating as the Academy's first human officer. Years later, when human ships began appearing throughout the galaxy, other species would remember the lesson learned that day. Never underestimate a human, became the unofficial motto of the Galactic Alliance. They're not just survivors, they're warriors who chose to be diplomats.